Welcome to the Cathedral Music Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Cathedral Music Podcast, a place that celebrates the most creatively exciting and interesting Christian music. We've got a great show coming up for you today, but to kick us off, it's Garvey with Not Too Far. Hello and welcome to the Cathedral Music Podcast. That was Garvey kicking us off there. He's the Drake of the Christian music scene, so if you're into your R&B, check it out. His new album, Heathen, has dropped and is available for you to listen. Well worth a check. But now let's move on to the rest of the episode. In this episode, we will be reviewing the music released between the 13th of March and the 13th of April. Our goal with Cathedral Music is to celebrate the most creatively interesting and exciting music. Our team of experts has been going through the recent releases, and we've put together a great show made up of a lot of music that we think you will love. And now, to introduce the team that make it all possible. This pair have been the subject of an approach from Netflix to recreate a British version of one of their recent documentaries, which has proved to be a huge success. First up, let me introduce you to the owner of the UK's largest collection of wild cats, and by that I mean one tame house cat named Oliver. It's Jacob Exotic.
That's an amazing intro. Hello everyone, I do have the facial hair to match.
But for every Batman, there's a Joker, and for every Superman, there's a Lex Luthor, despite there being no evidence to support the rumour that he killed and fed his husband to his tigers. It has done nothing to quell their bitter rivalry. Introducing our very own Carol Baskin is Mark Wakefield.
What's up? These are my favourite intros you've ever done. Hello, I have nothing to do with Carol Baskin, allegedly.
Yeah, and the rumours that you killed and fed your husband to the tigers, Mark, completely unfounded, right?
Yeah, 100%, it was a puma. I mean, nothing. I played the fifth.
Oh man, this is a weird episode for us. This is our first volume of our quarantine tapes, because for the first time ever, we are not together when we are recording this, and it is breaking my heart.
It's the saddest thing.
Yeah, it's very strange. You're in a closet in your house. I'm underneath a duvet in my dining room, and Mark's in his bedroom.
It's so weird. I want to be back. I want to be back home with you.
So, you been anywhere nice?
My back garden's lovely at this time of year. The sun's been out, been reading my book, hanging out with my cat. I found out that my cat is a bully, so it does fit in with my Joe Exotic. He's been attacking the other neighborhood cats.
Wow.
So that's not good news. Mark, what have you been up to?
Nothing quite as exciting. My dining room is also lovely this time of year. Been sat there editing videos for what feels like my entire life.
Cool. You found any innovative ways of making some money, Jacob?
Yeah, there's this fantastic app that I started using. You take surveys and you get credits. And I've made £5 so far. So I bought myself a Ben Folds vinyl with my well-spent hours.
This feels like a targeted ad,
surveys.
but this isn't the sponsored part of the podcast at all.
This isn't at all.
Just how Jacob talks.
How long has it taken you to get this £5 credit? How many
About
hours
2 hours.
of surveys?
2 hours of
2
surveys.
hours
Probably taken 10 surveys.
So you're working on then 10. So you're working on a hourly rate of £2.50.
Yeah. You know it.
And you feel it's worth it, right?
100%. I wouldn't take back any of it.
Mark, how have you been surviving quarantine?
Weirdly enough, I feel like I'm thriving. I am like king procrastinator. Like, stuff just doesn't get done, stuff gets pushed back. However, in the one time where I'm, not supposed to be doing any work, I find myself being like, I really want to do that thing. I really want to do this project. I really want to do this. And I'm finding that I actually get more distracted by people than I do the internet. And I didn't think that was the case. Because I find...
Is that because our desks are so close to each other?
Because I sit a meter from Jacob, if that. So I find a funny video or some nostalgic football post comes up and I'm like, oh Jacob, look at this. That's 3 hours of our day gone. Now I don't have that distraction.
Did you guys do any panic buying of any kind?
Yeah, I bought like 8 tubes of Pringles while they were on offer.
Did you actually?
Yeah, 100%. What if the salt
That's how
vinegar
many you
runs
have
out?
left.
I live with other adults who do like proper panic buying and proper like stocking up, so I just needed my own essentials, which for me is snacking.
Only fools need to panic buy for isolation because the sensible people like myself can live off our Brexit stockpile. That's still that was sitting there in the shed. We're all smug with our 48 tins of chopped tomatoes ready for multiple bologneses and lasagnas
That sounds so
and
good.
chilies.
I really hope your kids like tomatoes.
That and what was it? Like 48 Cadbury's cream eggs that I might have panic bought. I mean, that was a genuine panic buy.
Yeah, because Easter was spent in our house.
Yeah, so
we
weird.
couldn't go out and buy all these eggs. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It was a wise decision.
See, I mean, Easter at home is one thing, right? But so on Friday, the 17th of April, will be my 30th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, boy! Happy birthday
Happy
for
birthday,
them.
Josh.
But this is just going to go in a long line of anticlimactic birthdays for me.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
I want to give you a hug, but I literally
I do
can't.
both every single year.
Oh.
It's a day of laughing and crying.
Oh.
Do you know my 18th
Josh.
birthday, right? 18th birthday. Obviously, it's the build up towards A levels,
Yeah.
and we were meant to be volunteering on the kids team at Spring Harvest down in Minehead, but the DBS clearance thing didn't come through in time, so we had to be moved on to something you didn't need DBS for, so we ended up on the
Okay.
stewarding team, right? But on the kids team, you're only busy in the morning and then they have the rest of the time free. So we
Yeah.
said, like, okay, we'll do it as long as we've got enough time to revise for our A-levels. And then it turned out we were working from like 7 in the morning till 11:30 at night.
Nice.
And then
Oh
there
my
was
days.
there was like an optional prayer meeting at 6 in the morning as well. And so we were like, well, that's optional. So we didn't go and then got told off for not going to the optional meeting as well. But they told us there would be time to revise and there wasn't. So we were like, look, thanks, but no thanks isn't working. So we left Minehead, and the day that we left was my 18th birthday, the day I became an adult. And so my 18th birthday was spent for about 8 hours travelling on a train from Taunton train station back to Chesterfield.
It's so strong. What an
And then
18.
That was the
Obviously, we
most
haven't got any-
hardcore 18th birthday I've ever heard.
It was, yeah, well, obviously then, like, I wasn't planning on being in, like, you know, in Chesterfield with all my friends for my 18th birthday, so there was no plan. So me and the guy that I'd been on the train with all day, me and him and one of the guys that happened to be around went out for a drink at the local pub, and that was how I became an adult.
That's strong. That's very strong. That's an excellent story.
I mean, the fact that I was planning to spend my 18th at Spring Harvest probably says something about me anyway.
How servant-hearted you are, Josh.
Wow. What a Christian. This guy really loves the Lord. He's got zeal.
But yeah, so now my 30th is going to be spent in quarantine as well, but... Oh, well...
At least you've got this
Thank
to pass
you,
the time.
coronavirus.
Why do bad things always happen to good people?
But there has been some positives in the last few days, and we've had some lovely reviews in about the Cathedral
Ooh.
Music Podcast.
What an excellent segue. Continue.
So we've actually had so many reviews in this month that we can't actually include them all in this section. So
Hey.
here's just a few of them. First up, Laban wrote in and said, the Cathedral Music Podcast is a must listen if you're looking to get connected to fresh, expressive music relating to faith. They keep the mood light, yet connected to artists making deeply meaningful music. Subscribe and share this podcast.
Oh, that's so nice.
That's very nice. Thanks, man.
Yeah, and we had a nice couple of reviews from some of our friends. Producer Mike Loetto wrote in and said, love, in capital letters, love these guys. Funny and informative.
When
Oh,
reading
we love you
anything,
too.
when reading anything by Mike Loetta, you have to do it in a Californian accent. So please, just try it one more time, please, for us and the listeners.
Okay, here we go. Love these guys. Funny and informative.
Yes, that's so good.
Oh,
You sounded like the
I should get
voiceover.
Rachel. I sound like a voiceover. The mysterious voiceover lady. Does anyone know who she is? I don't even know.
I have no idea.
No idea.
I think she'd really like Jacob, though. I think they'd get on quite well.
Yeah, maybe we should hook them
Heard
up.
she's quite fit.
I couldn't possibly
Careful,
comment.
Jacob. You're a married man. But our friend Daniel Eduardo wrote in as well, said cool, insightful, and witty. I like to think that that's a nickname for each one of us.
Oh, who's who though?
Oh, well, I'm obviously cool. Jacob's insightful, and that would make Mark witty.
I'll take that.
There you go.
It's like
I think we're all quite content with that.
snap, crackle, and pop. I'll take that.
He said, thank you for providing a well-needed podcast. Love it. Now, the next review we want to share is one that's a bit poignant as well. Rosie53 wrote in and said, yay, 4 stars. We'll come to that in a minute, Rosie, don't worry. Finally, a place for Christian music chat. I know there aren't as many in the genre, but please, 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 can we have some ladies represented in the next few episodes? And then a little angel emoji. So she's obviously being very polite about it. First of all, I'll say we totally agree with you that there hasn't been as many ladies represented on the podcast as there probably should have been. Probably worth pointing out that this review was sent in after the February episode, so sure Rosie would have appreciated the Megan Brown feature in January and the Kat Ray feature in February. On the March episode, she'll have been very excited, I'm sure, to see the feature on Lauren Daigle and Tina Boomstra, and as well as, I think it was a 50-50 mix in the mixtape bit as well. But something we're aware of, and we are making it our mission to shed as much light on as many female musicians and male musicians as possible. Because whilst we agree with you that it hasn't been a great representation, we disagree with you on the other point that there aren't as many ladies in the genre. There are some incredible female artists writing some incredible music, exploring their faith, really creative stuff. And we want to shine a light on them as much as possible as well. So we will work on that. And you'll be happy to know that we'll be joined by Sobi later as part of our interview section in the Horizon Artist. So after that, we'd love to see that 5th star come in there, please, Rosie. But it is an important point, and we totally respect your point of view. We also had a couple more other great reviews coming in. I know many of us struggle to find good Christian music that doesn't sound cheesy, or sometimes you want to listen to some wholesome Christian music that isn't just congregational worship. Josh, Mark and Jacob really take you through what's going on in the Christian music industry today and have helped me find tons of new artists I absolutely love in such a short amount of time. 5 stars. Go take a listen.
Amazing. That's a great one.
And the final one we'll read out is from one Clarissa Stockton of Amongst Wolves fame.
Hey.
She wrote in and she said, love what you guys are doing on Cathedral Music Podcast. It always brings me some joy to my month, hearing all the banter, learning about the latest Christian music and having a deeper insight into some well-loved artists. As someone who's found it hard to sift through the cheesy Christian music over the years, to actually find artists that are pioneering the way musically and lyrically, this podcast makes that so much easier for us all. And I believe is a valuable platform for artists as well. It's super useful having the Spotify monthly playlist that you put up as well. Thanks for all you guys are doing and keep it up. Although perhaps not as many bagel puns next time, Mark. Winky face.
I agree with everything apart from that last statement. There's never enough bagel puns.
Did anyone else see that video that Lauren Daigle put up about bagel bites?
I was like, oh no, damn it, we're part of the problem, not the solution, damn it.
We're part of the problem. So, she said every time she's on any form of radio show or podcast, they make some kind of bagel joke. And we 100%
part of it. I can't believe we were part of it.
Yeah. But to be honest, we didn't do all bad ones. Like, we only selected the cream cheese of the crop. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
We really need to stop.
That's not true.
We love to hear from you, so please continue to send in your comments and ratings. The easiest place to do that is on Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and Podbean. Your feedback helps us refine the show, and it helps other people find us. Make sure you have clicked subscribe on your preferred podcast platform as well, so each episode lands in your library automatically on release day.
Head over to your favourite social media platform and follow us on there. We're on Instagram and Facebook as @TheCathedralMusic, and each Friday we share our favourite new releases through New Music Friday. We've also recently launched our Twitter page, which is @Cathedral_music.
We also communicate through a monthly email newsletter, which you can subscribe to in the main page of our website, which is thecathedralmusic.com. Subscribing to the mailing list is the best way to keep up to date with all the latest releases, the developments around Cathedral, and the most exciting news from within the Christian music industry.
We genuinely do take your feedback on board, and where possible, try to make changes to ensure we can deliver the best possible product. With that in mind, And the fact that we have completed our first full 3 episodes, we felt it was time to shake things up a bit and make some changes.
This month we launched our record reviews online. We will be reviewing some of the most notable record releases from within the industry and posting them for your enjoyment. To kick things off, we have uploaded record reviews for each of the sit-down records of the month from the past 3 episodes. Broken Heart by Halvey, The World Keeps Spinning by The Brilliants, and 24 by Jonathan Ogden. You can access these on our website, and if you enjoy them, why not click like, leave a comment, and share them on social media.
We've also released a few playlists on Spotify to suit whatever mood you are in. We have released a social dancing playlist, see what we did there, to help lift your spirits during the lockdown period. And we have an electronica and a singer-songwriter playlist up with more.
You know what, Jacob? I think the dancing only works for Northerners, because when you're coming at it with the dancing,
all right.
So I don't. We're social distancing right now.
Oh yeah, that doesn't really work. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry for where I'm from.
And another bit of big news now. We heard that a lot of you wanted an abridged version of the podcast because you're busy people. We also had requests for more content to keep you going throughout the month. So we've taken your feedback on board, combined the two, and excitingly, we can announce that we will be releasing an additional new monthly podcast called the Cathedral Music Drive-Thru, which will be a 10 to 15 minute fast-paced run-through of the biggest singles from the previous month. We'll also include short interview extracts from the main podcast. This episode will complement the main Cathedral Music Podcast and will be released at the 2-week interval between each podcast release. So you'll now be receiving content from us every 14 days.
Yeah.
It's so sick.
If you're enjoying the music that's playing in the background, then you should definitely check out Layered Music. He sent us these beats for us to use in this episode today. So big shout out to him. That's Layyrd, Layered Music. Talking about changes to the podcast, we're now heading into a new feature within this episode. Each month from now on, we will do a section called The Fan's Favourite. Before the episode, we will send out a list on Instagram and Facebook of a few tracks for you to vote for, and the winner will be chosen as the Fan's Favourite, and we will review it on the episode. Now, for the inaugural Fan's Favourite feature, we sent out the list, and the winner came back. I mean, you guys are a lot heavier than I thought you were. This is Paramount by August Burns Red. You voted for it. That was your first ever Fan's Favourite, Paramount by August Burns Red. And to be fair, it couldn't sit in any further afield of your 2 wheelhouses. Jacob, this is somewhere you are totally alien to. Mark, this is your home.
This is
front
home.
room,
This is your bread and butter.
living room. You got your bread and butter, fire on, bit of Tiger King on TV,
Baggy hoodie, bag of popcorn,
and Screamo. Mark, you must be loving the fact that the fans voted for this as their favourite.
Oh man, I'm so happy this got voted. This is like my genre right here. I was so pumped when August Burns Red put out their new album, Guardian, and this is one of my favourite tracks. So to see it picked as the fans' favourite, as the inaugural fans' favourite, mate, legit. This track is awesome. Yeah, man.
It's good. So Jacob, obviously this isn't your genre that you're particularly familiar with.
No.
But as a industry expert, as an artist, listening to this, what things stood out to you before we go to the genre expert?
Yeah, for sure. I think thematically, I thought it was very cool. You can hear, it's through screaming, but you can hear that he's saying, he's talking about finding hope in a situation that you're going through and that you're struggling with, and you're finding somebody in that situation to help you through that. I think that's really cool. I feel like, a lot of the time it's said, and I do agree that a lot of the time this genre can be very dark, but the fact that they're putting a song out like this, that those people who maybe listen to that really dark genre can listen to and find a bit of hope with. But even though it's not my genre, that breakdown at like 1 minute 30 that I'm sure Mark will unpack a little bit more. But I thought that was sick. The breakdown came in, and then there's this like choir of voices that comes in on the back of and then the guitar starts doubling it, which I thought that was really cool. And then the second chorus, the second breakdown even, they do this really cool thing with pan guitars where like the drums are panned hard on the left and the guitars are panned hard on the right. And it's like really jarring, but like in a really like fun, interesting way. And last thing, I know that Mark's going to talk about this for 35 minutes, but but I didn't know if you guys thought about this. If you noticed that it sounded like the drums had like 8 toms on it, and they were panned like completely from like your left ear to your right ear. So we played it. It sounded like you were sitting at the drum kit, and it was like and as they panned like all the way from left to right.
Go on then, Mark.
Agree.
Your moment.
I absolutely love this. Even from the intro, I was kind of hooked with those like nice little dotted eighth delayed guitars and like that scream that was kind of coming through slowly but surely, and then it just breaks into this mental introduction. And I was fully vibing, and I was just there. And then it cuts back to this halftime, and then to 3-4 blast beats, and then a change up again for the pre-chorus. And I was just like, yes, and I was in the zone. And then, yeah, just like Jacob said, that syncopated beatdown is so much fun. That consistent cymbal for that classic like metal beatdown vibe. And I was it was such a moment of that complete release. And then, like, the second verse is my favourite part of the whole song, because you get these mental blast beats into double kick, into syncopation. It just felt like it was leveling up consistently, like throughout the whole verse. I was like, there's something more. Oh, there's something more. Oh, there's something more. I was blown away. I thought it was amazing. And then again, like, you know, you look at those lyrics. Are you walking through fire? You have a friend. Are you stuck in a nightmare? You have a light to make it end. Like, again, just speaking hope into a real dark place. And like, for me, the screams are what give that even more power, because it's like, it's almost shouting at you. It's saying, hey, there is a light, there is hope in this situation, wherever you're at, in the darkest place you could possibly be, even in there's a light. And through those screams, it just gets this like visceral emotion right to your core. I absolutely love this track.
Well, it was the fans' favourite. It's been picking up a lot of favouritism from the music industry as well. That song in particular has over 627,000 streams already on Spotify in a month. It's going down extremely well. I think the album itself is top of the rock charts in the Billboard, the metal charts, dark charts. There's all these different charts and genres there, but it's top of them all. It's doing incredibly well. It's your favourite. Might I just add, though, it won the vote by 1 vote.
Oh,
really?
Tight.
Yeah, it was tight. But if that scared you a little bit, and if that wasn't your ballpark, let's bring you back down with some really chill music now as we move on to our Horizon Artist of the Month. This is the brilliant Sobi. Enjoy.
Mortify myself to call you out of this hollow and into tomorrow.
That was the incredible, exciting, upcoming Sobi. Jacob, this is much more in your wheelhouse, right?
For sure.
How did you feel when checking out Sobi's music?
Yeah, for sure. Her EP called Home One Day, I really enjoyed it. It has a super cool vibe. It was very sort of low-key, maybe even a little bit lo-fi. And for those fans of Michaela Davis or maybe Marika Hatman or maybe even Phoebe Bridgers, you would kind of get a bit of those vibes. And I like that she's almost intentionally moved out of the singer-songwriter bracket by playing electric guitar in a lot of the songs. I feel like if she picked up the acoustic and just started playing along, a lot of people can just shove her in like, oh, she's one of those singer-songwriters. Sometimes they do covers, sometimes they do cool songs. But I think by picking up the electric guitar instead of acoustic, I think it really gives these songs a new life that maybe an acoustic guitar wouldn't. Yeah, and I think she's a very earnest, I think would be a good way, lyricist.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially on that track, Devil,
Yeah.
she really she's just very honest with what she's saying, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah, man, those opening lyrics in Devil are brilliant. They're so honest, they're so vulnerable. Devil, take your claws out my brain, your lies are driving me insane. Sending all my friends away, for you I'd never end my days. Show me a light, show me the way out of this hollow and into tomorrow. And it's sung with this beautiful, gentle manner. It's such a fantastic song. It's by far and away my favourite on the EP, purely because of that. You know, these lyrics are so hard and harsh and honest, and yet they're kind of juxtapositioned by this beautiful, gentle, soft voice. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. I think personally, it's a great EP for the times that we're in right now. These sort of unsure times. I found it a really nice EP to put on, sort of no matter what I was doing, if that makes sense. And like as well as the anthemic choruses, I felt like I could almost soak in the songs as well. They had that kind of vibe to them too.
So we're huge fans of Sobi, and we think she has got a huge future, which is why she is down as April's Horizon Artist. But I also had the privilege of catching up with her earlier in the week.
We hope that you enjoyed this interview between Josh and the amazing Sobi. There were a few technical difficulties, but please stick with the interview. Sobi has some amazing things to say. Enjoy.
The Cathedral Music Podcast.
We're really pleased to be joined now by Sobi. Sobi, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. How are you coping with the quarantine and the lockdown?
It's actually been all right. I think I'm definitely in a good position. I'm living with my husband, and so we've just been enjoying this time as much as we can.
But it's been a little bit more complicated for you than for a lot of other people in quarantine.
Yes, so we're expecting our first baby. This has been a very unexpected end to the pregnancy. Coming very close to the due date, so it's definitely not been as we've imagined. But we're trying to look at the positives. We've had this time to prepare. We didn't think that we'd be together for this whole time. That's actually been quite nice.
All right, we'll wish you all the best and hope it goes well. But let's talk about your music. Let's move on to that, because that is the main reason we've got you on for the interview right now. We're interested to know, like, how long have you been singing and performing for that's led you to this point of this EP coming out?
I guess maybe about 10 years, but making very small steps. I've recorded a few EPs, but this one is kind of the biggest step up, I think. I'm very proud of it. The songs have taken a long time to write and put together, but it just felt like the right time to release this EP. And I'm really happy. I'm so glad that you guys like it, and that I've already played a track from it. I was so happy to hear that.
Yeah, no, we're huge fans. It's got a brilliant intimacy, rawness with the vocals, and yet a really easy listening element to it as well. Like, we were reflecting on it as a team and said there's a lot of music you have to be in a certain mood for to listen to, but with Sobi's music you can turn it on at any point, no matter what mood you're in, and you listen to it and you enjoy it. You've got really anthemic choruses, but you've got some really interesting subjects in there as well. Songs like Pearl is seems like a really beautiful intimate relationship with, is it a mother and daughter relationship? What's the story behind that one?
Yeah, so I was actually inspired by the book The Scarlet Letter. In the book, it's about a woman who has to have her baby in prison. And then afterwards, she kind of spends her life very isolated from the society that she lives in. It really struck me because the whole way through all her troubles, she says it was all worth it. Her daughter is so precious to her that she calls her Pearl. Yeah, it really kind of blew my mind, and it was the first time I'd kind of thought of motherhood in that way. And now, obviously, it means even more to me. And for me, also, it made me think of God's love for us and everything that He's gone through, and the way He looks at us children, and how precious we are to Him. So that really moved me.
There's also Devil on there as well, which is one I remember you playing a while ago, and you've revisited it and you've really matured the song as well. You've taken it on a lot of different levels. What's been the journey you went through with Devil?
So Devil was, it was kind of battled with whether to put this song on the EP or not, because it is very old. And it is a song that for me keeps coming back. I wrote it when I was in quite a dark place, going through kind of anxiety and depression and things. And now it feels like that topic is so relevant, and my hope for the song was to inspire people to keep going and to have hope and faith, and that's why we kind of ended the song show me light, show me a way, because I was very keen to like that and not just kind of hang on the dark side.
Talking about the maturity of your songs, we noticed as well that you used electric guitar a lot of the time rather than using the acoustic guitar, which a lot of singer-songwriters do, and it showed another level of your journey on that. What was the thinking behind the electric guitar rather than the acoustic for you?
I was inspired definitely by artists like Leanne Lahavas, and a lot of kind of female artists who've also made that switch. And for me, it fitted a lot better with the songs that I was writing and the themes. And I just love the sound, to be honest. Kind of the variety that it can give you. I got really into using different pedals, right now my favorite pedal is the Strymon El Capistan.
Nice.
I love it. It's like a tape delay pedal, and it just makes you feel like kind of you're in this huge room or cathedral. And yeah, I love reverb. Yeah, space as well. I think I enjoy writing songs with a lot of space on the guitar. And so, yeah, the electric guitar just felt kind of right for that.
Brilliant. So we met probably about 10 years ago in Manchester, but you're not in the UK anymore, are you?
I'm now in Germany, in Hanover, which was a big step for me to move here. I never thought I would end up living here, but this is definitely my home now.
What's it like releasing music in English in a country where their primary language isn't English?
It's interesting actually, because I think Germans pay a lot of attention to the lyrics, even though it's not in their mother tongue. So I think actually here the lyrics mean even more, or it feels like that. So I'm quite careful about how I formulate things. Yeah, it's been really amazing actually to see how the music has connected with people here. Also, I feel like because they have a different feeling for the language, sometimes what they hear in a song is completely different to what I intended. It's really nice to hear how through different languages and through music you can reach other cultures.
So in your musical career so far, what has been your sort of standout moment?
I think actually my release concert in Hanover this year, which was the last concert that I played, was really amazing. It was just like the peak of everything. We'd put in so much work into the EP, and then to be able to play the songs live at a big venue, and also sell out the place in Hanover, which is kind of my new hometown. That was really a really special moment. I felt a lot of love in the room, and it was such a positive atmosphere, and it was kind of like the reward for all the hard work.
Brilliant. Well, Sobi, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and to listen to your music. I'll continue to listen to it on repeat. We wish you the best with the pregnancy and the entrance into motherhood. And we look forward to hearing the next project that you get into musically as well.
Thanks, Josh. It's been great to talk to you.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Cathedral Music Podcast.
It's now time for the mixtape. Each month, we choose a selection of songs that have really caught our attention and we think you need to check out. This is the April mixtape. We hope you enjoy it. It's now that part of the episode that we all love, apart from Mark, because he's a constant loser. It's Shuffle Play!
Oh, it keeps me up at night.
I haven't slept in weeks.
The idea of Shuffle Play is that I will take control of their music libraries and I will press shuffle and see what song comes on next. They will have 30 seconds to try and guess the artist and the song title name. We will have 3 songs each, so there's a potential of up to 6 points. And at the end of each go, they have to say why they like that artist. The winner is the person with the most correct guesses. So that's how it would normally work, but today it's a little bit different, seeing as we are all in quarantine and isolation, and I cannot just take hold of their phones and their library without logging in and therefore needing all their passwords and everything, and they don't trust me just because I have a terrible credit rating and I've been officially declared bankrupt 3 times.
Also, all my passwords are Josh is a wiener 123.
Oh man, you sound just like the childhood bullies that I knew. So what I've done this time is I have actually chosen 3 songs that I think they will know, and they've got the chance of guessing.
Oh,
This is going to be deep.
oh, it's so stressful. This is going to be chaos. I'm so stressed. I think I'm more stressed now. Even though I'm sat on my bed rather than in an intense studio environment, I'm way more stressed.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same.
Let me introduce you to the 2 contestants. First of all, the guy who has won 1/4 of the year's games already. Our very own Jacob Exotic. How you feeling, Jacob?
I'm back. I'm back again to win, but I'm feeling very, very nervous, like Mark was just saying.
And therefore that leads us on to the loser. Sorry, our next contestant. It's Carol Baskin.
Hey, what's up, you cool cats and kittens? I'm physically terrified. I'm so scared I could murder a man and feed him to a tiger. Allegedly.
Oh, man. Right. Jacob, as the reigning champ, are you ready?
I go first again? Okay.
You're going first again. Yeah. Okay. You've got 30 seconds.
I just want to jump in here, and if you've selected a single Brightline track, I am leaving the Zoom call.
Right, here we go.
Hey, this is John Webster, and you're listening to Cathedral Music Podcast.
It's now on to our standout single of the month. This month was a really hard one to choose because there were so many good songs, but we landed with Happy by Wande. Check it out. This song is so good. Mark, you're a big fan. Take it away.
Well, as winner of Shuffle Play, I really enjoyed this song.
You're going to milk this for so
mate,
long.
until I next lose, which let's face it will be next time. But until I next lose, this is my one thing. No, I really enjoyed this one. We found this one for a New Music Friday, and I've kind of been playing it ever since. It's just so much fun. I just really enjoy the vibe of the song, and yet at the same time, it's got these incredible, relatable, kind of hard-hitting lyrics. I think that's something really like special to get that balance right. Yeah. One of the things that hooked me like from the get-go is those kind of like almost 90s noughties kind of like vocoder style vocals that kind of bring it right in from the gut.
Real Daft Punk vibe, isn't it, to that kind
100%. It's so cool. And then one of my favourite things was that real softness and delicate kind of nature of the pre-chorus, so that when that chorus comes in, it lands really hard and the vibe just comes immediately in, and I just think that's so cool.
You hear that she's a great singer as well, can't you, in those bits, like, you know, in the soft delicate bits where she builds up to it, but really good sort of singer voice as well as brilliant ability to rap. Yeah,
for sure. She really shows you in that second verse, like her rapping style as it switches from the first verse, which is more of like the flows kind of sung, and then the second verse she hits with that hard hitting rap. And for the song's only 2 minutes long, but it feels like a big journey to only be, 2 minutes. Because they introduced that kind of vocoder sample that you're talking about, Mark, though. It's not sample, that kind of vocoder vocals like comes in straight away. And the first time I heard it, it kind of knocked me a little bit, because I was like, wait a minute, this is different. And as you kind of listening to it, you're like, oh, this is cool, different. I like this. And I was looking up who produced this, because it obviously sounds really expensive. It sounds really nice. And the guy who produced this is called Taylor Hill, who's produced like some of Lecrae's stuff, produced some of Trip Lee. So they're both Reach Record people. So he's somebody who's hooked in with those Reach Record crew.
And just like we were saying earlier, that verse 2 really kind of speaks into the now moment, where it says, I got a joy that lasts, it's never leaving, so I feel content when things don't go my way. I'm thinking the way we're feeling, so deceiving, you don't even know, follow your heart. People yelling, but you always got that still small voice, got peace, never drives me insane, always staying the same. I think that's mad, and like you're saying, a real song for now, that's kind of talking about this peace that we get from God, that we have the privilege of receiving, that in this time when the world says that everything is crazy, when our circumstances says that everything is weird and not the way it should be, there's this still small voice that gives us peace, that never drives us insane. Like, that's really beautiful. Yeah, I also think it's kind of ironic that she says, I still feel content when things don't go the way I'm thinking, because by the end of the song, I didn't feel content because I wanted more, and it was only 2 minutes. I was...
Well, you're wanting more, you will get more, Mark, because that is the first track from her debut album, Exit, which will be out very soon.
Hey, come on.
Moving on now to the next section of the podcast. It is the Seminal Artist. It's a time when we get to reflect on the incredible works of some brilliant musicians that have gone before us, paving the way with some boundary-breaking, inspirational music. This month, we were so excited to switch our attention to Switchfoot. Switchfoot are undoubtedly one of the biggest rock bands in the Christian industry, but also spanning into the mainstream industry. They're now on their 11th studio album.
It's crazy.
They have achieved double platinum status on a record. They have got multiple Grammys. I mean, if there is an epitome of a seminal artist, Switchfoot are surely it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
They started out in 1997 and have been on quite a journey, spiritually, professionally, musically. For 23 years, they're still going. Jacob.
That's quick maths.
Thank you very much. Jacob, what has caught your attention with the career and the music that has been created by the legends that are Switchfoot?
Yeah, I think they're such an important band because of all that they've done, all they have accomplished. I mean, the fact that the majority of their albums have made it into, the Billboard top 200 albums, most of them breaking into the top 10. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And to get all of the fame that they've got, I don't think that they've cheated. I don't think that they've taken the easy route. I don't think they've sold out or lacked integrity at all during this process.
It's been a real interesting journey for them because of that integrity point to their music.
Yeah.
They started off in 1997 wanting to write music for fans of music, not necessarily in that Christian genre. They were Christians, they'd grown up in the church, and they would use their music to channel their faith, but they wanted to push on and write music that sort of celebrated life and pursued all sorts of stuff without any particular boundaries. But when they ended up with Rethink Records, which then got taken over by Sparrow Records, they ended up then being pushed through the record label to go into a contemporary Christian music scene, and therefore they got pushed towards all the Christian radio stations. They got pushed towards the Christian marketing scene rather than the wider mainstream moment. And it's a point that John reflected on, saying that at that point half of who they were got lost.
Wow.
And we're talking about that integrity piece and where they wanted to be. And actually, it could have been so much easier going down the Christian scene or doing that, but they didn't want to do that. What they wanted to do was just be creating music. And then the big break comes in 2003 when they get picked up on the soundtrack for A Walk to Remember.
Yeah.
And suddenly everyone knows them. They are huge. Their following album is the double platinum album. It is just a sensational journey that they went on. And that moment where they really sort of found their voice and their moment to stand in the spotlight and get the attention.
Yeah, for sure. I find it so impressive. You said it's double platinum. That record sold over 2.7 million copies in the US alone.
It's crazy.
That's
phenomenal.
Absolutely incredible. I really enjoy that album. It feels like they've really started to, maybe the finances have stepped up a little bit with how they're able to afford the recording, so that the record sounds a lot more expensive. Again, not in a sold out way. It just sounds like they've got a lot more gear and the songs sound so much bigger. But they've obviously started to step into what everybody knows as the almost Switchfoot sound. I don't know if you guys would agree with that. Those just massive guitars and massive guitar riffs.
Yeah, I mean, some of those riffs on that album are like iconic. Yeah. You think about like Meant to Live and Day to Move, still two of their most recognizable
100%.
tracks. And even featuring on Spider-Man as well with Meant to Live as well, like getting further into that mainstream, like it's just crazy.
Yes. And beautiful letdown that it was through that album that they signed to Columbia Records, which is obviously a ginormous, huge machine of a record label that so many massive artists are signed to. So at this point, they're officially huge. And I even just to point out that even the producer that they worked with on this album, a guy called John Field, worked with the Jonas Brothers and Pink and the Backstreet Boys, Jimmy Eat World, All Time Low, Demi Lovato, Miley Cyrus. So like they're starting to attract
it's not a bad
people
list.
who want to like producers who want to work with them. And I think, I mean, obviously we don't need to chat about this album for long at all, but they released like an album called The Early Years, which basically was a compilation of their three albums. And I think it just their first three albums, sorry. And I think it just shows how big of a band they are, that this compilation album sold 500,000 copies.
Yeah.
It's not even like
it went gold.
It went gold. Like
it
it's
went
not
gold.
even which and then And then obviously 2005 is another one of their massive albums. Nothing Is Sound. What is it about that album that drew you guys to it?
Oh man, it's those fat guitars. I mean, like it's just the edgiest like guitar driven little album. I just absolutely love it. And like again, like we were saying earlier, this one hit number 3 on Billboard charts. It's crazy. And like you think about, again, talking about iconic songs, you look at Stars, Shadow Proves the Sunshine. We Are One Tonight. I absolutely love Politicians on that album as well. Like there are some massive tracks, and it's just, I felt like, they stepped the guitar production up another level for this album, and there was just some absolute corkers on this one.
And I wonder if this was the addition of Drew Shirley. So finally, like, the band started as 3 members. Then on their last album, Beautiful Letdown, Jerome, the keys player. And then finally, the Switchfoot that we know today has only existed since 2005, they'd been a band since 97. So this guy, Drew Shirley, joined the band. I think that maybe even the addition of him added a whole other level of the guitars, because I feel like they do sort of switch up a little bit on this record.
And then 2006 came, and Oh Gravity was the next release that came from that. It reached 18 on the Billboard charts, and it got to number 1 on the iTunes album charts as well.
And this is their final album with Columbia.
Yeah, because in 2007 they decided to sever ties with Columbia and launched an indie label called Lowercase People Records.
Which is a really cool name.
It is. But then Columbia released like a best of album, a kind of like a farewell. You know, thank you, marking the end of the relationship. And I think it was quite magnanimous. Everyone was quite content with the ending. I think Switchfoot, they were originally attracted to the label by a lot of the people that were there. The people had moved on. Switchfoot had developed, and it felt time to draw that relationship to an end. And then when they came back in 2009 with Hello Hurricane. Oh, hello.
Hello indeed.
Hello, Hurricane.
Lovely to meet you, Hurricane.
How are you doing? Please keep playing.
Mate, just getting back into particularly this album, I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Like going back and listening through to all the Switchfoot stuff for this podcast has been so much fun, but particularly Hello Hurricane. I think I forgot how much of an excellent album it is.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, like,
so good.
Again, like the first 4 tracks are like almost perfect. Right?
I had exactly
like,
the same note. Those 4 tracks. Those first 4 tracks to start. I mean, what I thought when I heard them, I thought, what a new level of energy they had.
Yeah.
It was just a different energy. It come really fresh. Like, even the first song started with the drummer on 16ths on the hi-hat. Yeah. I've been listening to the albums chronologically, and I think I might be wrong, but that might be the first time in all of their records where the drummer does that, where it is a 16th beat on the hi-hat to add that extra amount of pace, and they kickstart like with another gear. And those 4 tracks, what a start to an album.
I think it feels almost like an opening to a gig. That track.
That's
like,
cool,
I mean, Needle Haystack Life, and you can almost imagine the drummers on stage, the lights come up, John Foreman's singing, but you can't see him, the guitarists are, like, it feels like they're kicking off a gig, and I just got that vibe through the whole album. There's just this energy and this pace throughout the whole thing. And I mean, the sound and Bullet Soul.
So good.
I know I'm saying this for every song I've said so far, but they are generally 2 of my favourite Switchfoot tracks. Like, the chorus line, I can't tell you how many times I've considered ripping off the chorus to the sound. It's just so good.
Did you know they wrote 80 songs for this album?
What?
I did not know.
They wrote
No.
80 songs when they were trying to write this album. And this won them their first Grammy as well.
Yeah, well deserved. So good.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But then next, in 2011, they released Vice Versa. What do you guys feel about this?
My absolute favourite Switchfoot album, Vice Versa's. Oh my gosh. So this is the album that the first album I ever heard of Switchfoot was Vice Versa's.
Okay, cool.
So a friend of mine called Josh Bradshaw, he bought me tickets to this gig, and he was like, I know you don't know who this band are, but I know you're going to love it. I was
That's
like, okay.
amazing.
And so he lent me his CD-ROMs back in the day. He lent me his CD-ROMs of Hello Hurricane, The Best Yet, and Vice Versa's. And it was the Vice Versa's tour.
I started off listening to Switchfoot on tape, so...
Well, thanks, Grandad. So I listened to Vice Versa's first, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Because I'd heard of Switchfoot, but I'd never engaged. engaged. 'Cause I was like, they're a Krizza band. I don't want anything to do with that. And then I knew I was going to a gig, so I was like, well, I'm gonna have to learn these songs. And so I listened to Vice Versa's, and when Afterlife kicked in, I was like, he definitely said Christian, right? Like, that wasn't like the first name of one of the guys. Like, they're actually a Christian band. Listen to it, and then listen to the rest of the album. And I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. And by the time we got to the gig, I was like head to toe covered in merch, pretty much. And I was like, I love this band.
So pumped. Amazing.
I was so ready. And then we got to the gig, and like, I mean, like, seeing Switchfoot live is a whole other experience, because they're a fantastic live band as well.
Yeah.
Like, you see John Foreman climbing over everything he possibly can.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. So we were on the ground, and then there was a balcony up around us, and he climbed all the way around the balcony. He was like high-fiving people, going around, and while
That's so
maintaining
sick.
like, you know, basically perfect pitch. It was unbelievable. But yeah, so this album for me was absolutely massive. I mean, like, I think Selling the News might be one of the first raps I ever learned. And then you've got like
Amazing.
Dark Horses, the beautiful, soft, somber Vice Versa's, the self-titled track. Like the original with those like weird guitar tones. Just so good. So good.
Yeah,
And
they
then
did an absolutely amazing job on this.
the anthemic ending with Where I Belong as well. Unbelievably good. Like, again, like when I first listened to this album, I don't really think I ever fully got the end, but then again re-listened to it loads recently. I was like, man, Where I Belong is just jumping up, you know, my leaderboard of favorite tracks, because it's just, I was there and I was like, you know what, I feel part of a family. Like, I feel part of this
Wow,
family, this
that's
Switchfoot
so
family,
sick.
this family of God kind of thing, you know. Like, I want to be in the place where I belong, like this heavenly realm. Like, I want to get there, and I want to be there. I want to get there with my best foot forward. I was like, yeah, I do. Yes, yeah, I do. And I was just, oh man, this album got me pumped. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really grabs me about this album as well, in terms of my musical journey, is I'm absolutely desperate to emulate what they created with it, in terms of this
for
full-on gospel, Christian, evangelistic, hopeful, anthemic lyrics that they've got.
Yeah.
But there's no element of cheesy or over-Christianizing anything, or even Christianese. Actually, they've just found a way to speak so clearly. I want that, man. I want that so bad.
Yeah, 100%. That's so good, man.
Their next phase they went on to was Fading West, and they not only released a album but a film with it as well, which was largely based around surfing.
Yeah, and Fading West is actually, I know I'm like, was really, really late to the party, but that was the actually first Switchfoot album I kind of started listening to and went, oh shoot, like, this is sick.
Yeah.
It was definitely in my like top 5 albums of like, you know, 2014, and the fact that they released the documentary with it and the surfing, and I grew up on the beach in Mexico and into that, all that kind of thing, it like really drew me in as a fan.
I mean, clearly, like, the things they love is talking about hope and surfing, right? And like, that's reflected in their two names, because their original name was Chin Up, which is so clear as, you know, like their message of hope, kind of chin up. I love that. And then the name Switchfoot, my girlfriend told me, who is an enormous Switchfoot fan, like borderline creepy. And she told me that Switchfoot is actually a surfing term, because it's about the stance you take on a board. When you switch your feet, you take a different posture, you take a different stance, and it can help you face the next wave. And I'm like, that's so cool.
That's sick.
In 2016, then we move on to Where the Light Shines Through, and we see producer John Fields come back, who also worked on Beautiful Letdown, Nothing to Stand or Gravity. And there's quite a different approach to this in the musicality of it. It's a lot more poppy tracks, indie sort of vibes, even bluesy feels at times. But there's also a bit of a shift up in perspective as well, right, Mark?
Yeah, 100%. Before this, all the albums were kind of anchored around this idea of preaching hope, right? Like, all the lyrics and everything, it was all about hope, and that was their focus. And then for the last 2 albums, it feels that the perspective shifted, and actually they've started to focus on proclaiming joy, an equally strong biblical principle. And you see the shift in their lyrics ever so slightly. And I mean, you still have hopeful anthems like Where the Light Shines Through, you know, the title track. Yeah. That is so clearly a hopeful anthem. But then the rest of the tracks in the following album, there's such an anchor around joy. And it's interesting in how that works out in the music. You know, they move away from this kind of edgy, dirty guitars and into these kind of more like indie and kind of more summery vibes almost. Kind of similar, almost amalgamating Fading West, Vice Versa, and Hello Hurricane with a new lyrical perspective for the next two albums. I think that understanding that actually really helped me enjoy these two albums a lot more, because I started to understand more where they were coming from. And actually, you know, like, but also the jam of all jams is Float off the, like, I absolutely adore that track.
That's
so
actually
good.
one of my favorite Switchfoot songs. It's and that's why we put it on our social dis dancing playlist. I said it like a northerner.
I'm so proud of you. Hey, up, lad. Dis dancing, got a cup of grey, is it?
We put it on our social dis dancing playlist because it's an absolute jam. It is so good.
Also, one of the things I really enjoy with that track is telling people it's in 7/4, because when you listen to it, it feels like 4/4, and then you actually clap along and you realise it's not. And I love it.
1, 2, 3. Wait, yeah, it's so
it's great.
clever.
There's always like a moment in someone's eyes that goes, oh yeah, and I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's so good.
That is our review on Switchfoot. We are absolutely huge fans. They are the definition of a seminal artist. They are incredible. If you are listening to this and you have not yet discovered Switchfoot, now is your time in your quarantine, in your isolation, to go on and choose any of the 11 albums and enjoy.
The Cathedral Music Podcast.
It's now time for our sit-down record of the month. This one was a really, really hard month to choose because there was some great records, but we all landed on the fact that Guvna B with Everywhere and Nowhere was our sit-down record of the month. Here is a few tracks from the album. After Guvna B released Battle, which was our February standout track of the month, we were so excited to hear the rest of the album that was to follow, and this has not disappointed. This is a brilliant album, really honest, a great journey of an album as well. Jacob, what is your analysis?
Yeah, for sure. I think the first time I listened to this album, a bunch popped out. But it wasn't until like the second listen that the album really started to stick. And after the third and fourth listen, I was like, yeah, this should definitely be our sit-down album of the month. And I think we all went on a similar journey. This album it has so much to offer that every time you go back, you find more and more. It's so heavy with lyrical themes, with the things that he's saying. It's got fun gospel parts like With Me All Along and You Never Let Go. And yeah, it's poppy, it's soul, it's got gospel, but it's about loss. It's about trying to work through that. It's about gun crime and knife crime, and saying that you think this album would maybe be down tempo, maybe be chill and retrospective, but they've almost gone the other way with it. And I think we're so happy that they chose to go in a more upbeat direction, but still cling on to those deep lyrical themes.
Just touching on a few of those lyrical themes in the album, like you've mentioned, there's gun crime and knife crime. We're looking at him processing the death of his father. We're looking at him bringing up kids. You know, the idea of gaining a house but losing a father at the same time.
Yeah, that lyric
dwindling
is crazy.
Faith.
Yeah,
growing up near shootings. The honest track where he goes through the fact that his friend died and he wasn't there for him.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the album, reflecting on the fact that he feels he's been a diversity tick in lineups as well.
Yeah.
You know, deep themes that he processes very honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I was really blown away by this. Kind of the more I listened, the more I felt like I got to know Guvna B. And me and Jacob were talking about this.
Yeah.
And we felt like we ended up getting to know him through this album because it's
like,
so
we're mates now.
Yeah. Like there's always artists that celebrate vulnerability and honesty and integrity, but I've never seen it done like this.
Yeah.
There's moments in this where he's like talking about his accounts, and there's moments in this where he's talking about like losing a dad, and then there's moments where he's talking about a mortgage and having a son and like race issues and gender issues, and it's like it felt like a conversation, and it felt almost two-way, because I felt like I was going almost agreeing, and
exactly.
The whole album felt mature and well thought out, and all the messages, I felt like all the beats they were trying to hit in terms of lyrically, they absolutely smashed with this in terms of like the hardships, taking things to God. We're better when we're with God. We're never alone. and then also his inner battles as well. Again, I felt were explained so clearly. There's a lyric, not quite Stormzy, not quite Lecrae, feel like half rapper, half worship leader, stuff like that. I felt like there was a really perfect balance of metaphors and literal lyrics, in terms of there was some stuff that was hidden in metaphors you have to unpack, and there's some stuff where he just says, I feel like a diversity tick. And there's no reading between the lines. It's just, this is it. And I think there's something really precious in how they've laid all of this stuff out, in that the more I listened, the more I fell in love.
Yeah, exactly. It's that thing of like, I don't know if you guys ever feel like this, but after you read a book or after you watch a movie, you've been brought into that world, you've been brought into that adventure, and like you leave it a little bit like, oh, I've left that world, I've left that adventure behind. I want to go back into it, and this album's the same. I mean, that lyric that you mentioned before, the first track on the album is called Bittersweet, and the lyric is literally, I never thought I'd buy a house and a coffin within a few months.
Oh.
And then he goes on to say, what I'd do for you to pick up the phone, like I just want to call you. And he's talking about his dad who passed away. Like, how can you start an album with those lyrics? But he did.
Yeah.
And it sets the tone completely. And then the hook is, you're everywhere and nowhere, and that's the hook of the first song. And then actually the last song in the album has a very similar hook saying you're everywhere and nowhere, and this whole album is packaged so well inside that.
So I think this album, looking at it as a perspective piece, as a whole album, right?
Yeah,
I think it is a very carefully curated, precise piece, and as its journey, I think it is complete, if not perfect. A journey as an album, as an album, I genuinely believe that. We all love albums that are not just collections of songs that people put together, like I wrote these independent songs. We like albums that take you on a journey, that go through something, that explores.
It's what an album should be.
Exactly. Now, if you look at this, it's really, really interesting. The first three songs are out and out grime songs, right? Then
got to put us to the stop and do a Mazza.
Mazza.
Yeah, exactly. Full on grime tracks to start with. Then sort of we go a bit more sort of soft poppy hip hop with Blessings and the Wretch 3-2 feature. And that then gives a nice transition to hit into a gospel section where we get in tracks 5 and 6 with Me All Along and You Never Let Go, very sort of gospel-y. And then that phases nicely into sort of the 90s two-step, which has obviously got the roots in the gospel and the jazz. And then into sort of like, following on the more 90s themes, we get that sort of 90s hip-hop with Kumbaya, which almost feels like a Fugees type song, something you'd expect from like Lauryn Hill. Which then goes into Battle, the big absolute stone cold Steve Austin 316 stunner of a song. And then into the intimacy of Safe Place on the back of there, before then coming back to Everywhere and Nowhere. In the first track, Everywhere and Nowhere is talking about his dad, as in that he can see, everything he sees reminds him of his dad. So it's like he's everywhere and nowhere. But then when it gets to the last track, he's got the same sample of Everywhere and Nowhere. But it closes the story because he's talking about his journey and his faith. Like he's worried he's not going to make it. He knows God's around it, but he's worrying about his own personal success. So therefore he feels like he is everywhere and nowhere, taking on almost his father's mantle, and therefore the story closes, the album's complete. It is a perfect, if definitely not, it is a complete journey of an album.
Exactly.
100%.
Some of the standouts for me was actually You Never Let Go, and when I first saw the track name, I was like, okay, is this going to be just sort of, I mean, and not in any negative way at all, but is this just going to be a worship song? Is a worship leader just going to feature on this track? But when I started listening and they've got the choir singing that track, and I'm like, okay. And then and then the band that is around it, and in the end there's like this ooh that like walks up, but the bass like walks up the entire neck of the bass guitar. And it's just, I mean, that song and then These Are the Days, those two songs next to each other, I feel like they're those gospel kind of fun vibe that I feel like These Are the Days could potentially be on like Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book album. Like they just would fit, on that kind of thing with the real fun. It's got that trumpet solo at the end. It's so fun.
I think for me the highlights were Mazza. I just thought it was an insanely fun track in terms of its vibe, but actually like an incredibly deep song
Yeah.
about the culture and the world we live in. You can't help but listen to it and feel convicted. And then also Safe Place. Man, that hits hard, that track. Oh my gosh.
Real.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the Francis Chan's bit in the middle as well is fantastic. And I think it's relatable in a really sad way. I think probably for a lot of people, in terms of the hypocrisy that's in church. You know, you look outside the church, say, I can't believe they're living like that. But then wait, but we're living like this though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes through prosperity gospel warnings. He goes through sexual abuse of senior leaders, private jets. That people are trying to get out of debt, and they're the ones funding the private jets. You know,
Exactly,
people going
flipping
homeless. It is a really honest, and at that point, condemning appraisal of the church. But the switch
then,
the switch up. Oh.
But then he drops in with my favourite lyric on the album, bold statement, but my favourite lyric on the album, in that track where he says, I'm faithful to the church, I feel like I'm always learning. You can hate if you want to, but I realised the other day there's hypocrites in the clubs too, and people still go back to the party. So I go back to church because I believe in what God has started.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's sick.
And then he goes on to say, you know, that when I lost my dad, they were there. You know, he said that the church gave him sight when he had no vision. You know, it was when, you know, they were stuck in prison. He fed the hungry. He went to the homeless. They see past the flaws. He says, because church is not a place I go to, but the family I belong to. Oh.
Wow. Yeah, exactly.
The people, not the steeple, which is a line I will be stealing and using liberally in my actual life.
100%. And to be honest, I feel like we could talk about this for days because there's so much in here. But like, if we've honestly though, but I feel like if we've even intrigued you a little bit, listener, then go check it out, because I feel like the best way to experience this album is to go and listen to it.
So this wasn't the only great album released this month. There was a few others that really caught our attention. It's worth mentioning Citizens with their album. They released one where all using iPhones to try and capture songs, so about 10 songs that they wrote for the church. So that's definitely worth checking out. And we were also big fans of Levi Parker's album, weren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, massive, yeah. I don't think I've ever flip-flopped between two albums so much for my favourite album of the month, between Levi and Guvna B. So good. I'm really looking forward to getting our teeth into it properly next month.
Mark dropping a little hint there. Next month, we will be choosing Levi Parker as our Horizon artist. So if you're enjoying the album, tune in again next month and we'll give it a bit of a deep dive.
The Cathedral Music Podcast.
Returning to this episode is the Pop Culture Moment, in which we try and explore moments where faith and culture collide in the music industry. This month, we have chosen to look at the 1975's most recent track, Jesus Christ 2005, God Bless America. It's a really intimate song, very acoustic vibes, but really packs a punch lyrically, exploring themes about faith and same-sex relationships. Jacob, you are the one that sent this through to me and said this is heavy, something that we probably should consider.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really interesting. You can sort of see Matt Healy, for those who don't know the 1975. Matt Healy is the lead singer for 1975. The 1975. Can't forget the. That's what makes them indie. I find it interesting, like hearing his journey in, I think it was 2018, they released an album which had a very long title called I Like It When You Sleep, For You're So Beautiful, Yet So Unaware of It.
Yeah.
And they had a song on that album called If I Believe You, where it was almost exploring, like, there's lyrics like, I have a God-shaped hole that's infected, but I'm so tired of being alone. It's pathetic, I know. I toss and I turn in my bed, and it's almost asking all these questions. And then the chorus is like, if I believe you, will that make it stop? If I say I need you, is that what you want? Almost asking the question to this being, whether that being God or, so for them to come back with this song, Jesus Christ 2005, God Bless America, the journey is maybe taken another step towards actually having a faith. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And because it's interesting, I actually read the lyrics before listening to the song because they posted on Instagram, and I read them and was like, flipping heck, what? And so when I listened to the song, I was like, wow, this is actually what you know what they're saying. Like, I found a friend in Jesus.
We actually recorded a Pop Culture Moment for the last episode, but it was cut out just because we had so much of the content.
Yeah.
And in that, we spoke about how hip-hop was using sort of a lot of gospel, and a lot of faith content was coming in there. Artists like Stormzy and Chance the Rapper were exploring their faith through music. We then asked the question about seeing whether other genres would start using this platform to explore their faith. And we touched briefly on Leon Bridges in soul music.
Yeah.
But this is a really clear indication of like an indie band, one
Yeah.
of the top UK indie bands in 1975.
You could say in the
exploring it.
world,
And
to be fair, they're
in
massive.
the world, yeah.
Yeah.
And starting off, the first line in the song is, "I'm in love with Jesus Christ. He's so nice."
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's such a nice, like, cute lyric. I love it, and it's so interesting. Like and you were saying, Mark, just before we press record, was it's a very interesting, almost strange lyric. Like, who really goes, "Oh, Jesus, he's nice."
Yeah.
What a nice guy.
You know what I mean? It's like we use all of these other words, but as somebody who maybe just doesn't have a faith or starting to have a faith or experimenting, it's very interesting that he's just using his everyday normal language, and he probably uses that word all the time. Like, this is my friend, he's nice. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Would
really
like
nice, and he's just-
would you bat an eyelid at that lyric if it said, "I'm in love with insert female name here, she's so nice"? You wouldn't bat an eyelid. You go,
No,
you
you
go, that's
wouldn't.
a cute lyric, but because it's Jesus Christ, it's a little bit like, wait, what? We normally say the word glorious. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, So it's a nice rephrasing, I think.
And it's an exciting song, but it feels heart-wrenching at the same time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when he's expressing lines like, you know, "I'm in love with the boy next door. It's a feeling I could never show."
Yeah.
And it's a very prominent issue, isn't it, at the moment in the church?
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, this is such a prominent issue in the world, and therefore art needs to address it in all forms. And whether that's pondering questions, whether that's challenging the status quo, whatever that is, things and opinions and mindsets need to be challenged, because that's how we develop. That's how we, find truth. That's how we
for
find, what we believe and all that stuff. And so, again, I want to say, I think it's amazing that we have artists who feel comfortable enough to put out vulnerable lyrics such as that, but that's a feeling I can never show. There's some battle. There's some history to that line. It feels like there's some weight to it. That's hidden and that's secret and that's painful. And again, hearing that in context with a few lines ago saying, "I'm so in love with Jesus Christ," actually, like, a dream is that both of these worlds come together, and it's a place of love, it's a place of admiration, it's a place of friendship and relationship, and actually they're not worlds that collide violently or in arguments or anything like that, but actually it's a place of freedom of expression, a place where you can be like, "No, I'm struggling with this," and someone can come alongside you and say, "Hey, let's be family in this together." So I think it's fantastic that we have those opportunities to express that through art, because that's where it's all going to come out eventually, isn't it, really?
I think the important part of this is showing is that the important thing is the conversation itself. Whether you've got an opinion that lands either side, that's up to you. But the important thing that we need to do is just listen to people, isn't it? We need to allow people to have a chance to say and feel heard.
Yeah.
And like you say, Jacob, see Matty Healy go on this journey with his faith, like increasing up to the point where he's starting a song saying, "I'm in love with Jesus Christ." There's even the footprints in the snow metaphor, which I was like, is that footprints in the sand? Like, surely he must know about that he's decided to include it, that like feeling lonely and vulnerable, but is God carrying him in this moment? Like, is it an acknowledgement to that? And that moves us on to the final section in the show. We have one last featured track for you. In the last episode, we chose Lecrae as our seminal artist. We knew he was coming back in 2020 with his upcoming album. And in that time, he's released a brilliant track, Set Me Free. Take a listen and enjoy. That was Set Me Free by Lecrae, the absolute kingpin of the Christian rap scene. Mark, it's so good to have him back, right?
Yeah, man, it's so good to have this guy back on the scene. It's so cool. And again, like, one of the things that really grabbed me with this is similar to what we were highlighting about Switchfoot in terms of the lyrical content just being so gospel and so like evangelistic, but no room for cheese. I love there's a point in the, I think the second verse where Lecrae says, "You broke the hold on me, now I'm free. Even in the darkest times, you kept your light on me." And like, there's loads of little examples like that I could pick out of just this clear message of just, you know what? Jesus is king, Jesus saves, set me free, this is it. And I just love that. And then on top of that, the whole track's a vibe.
Yeah, there's a real vibe. I love that they've got that real throwback of that Mary Mary track.
Yeah, man.
Take the shackles up
bit
my
of
feet
shackles.
so I can dance.
Yeah.
Like, but I really thought it was cool that they could have easily just sampled it and just gone, "Oh, that'll be our chorus," but they've like sampled it and then taken and given like a whole new spin of like,
Yeah, they dropped
Yeah.
it, didn't they?
And then they like spin it. They do another spin on it for that outro as well.
Really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And it's
cool.
produced by Garvey, who was the guy who introed this episode. He's part of Reach Records as well. And one interesting fact I thought you guys might find interesting. So there's a few features on the writers of this track, and one of the writers is Holvey. Holvey helped write this track, who was our Horizon artist last month. So I'm sure this
He's
kid.
made it now.
Yeah, this
Man, he's
kid who's
smashing
like
it.
blowing up, like who's only started doing music like for Reach Records about a year ago, is featured as a writer on a Lecrae track. I think that's pretty sick.
I mean, things have really taken off for him since we featured him. That's all I'm going to say.
You're welcome, Holvey.
Yeah.
And that brings an end to another Cathedral Music Podcast.
Super sad.
It's been sad on so many levels for us, like not being in the same room together.
Not being able to hold hands like normal.
Yeah.
The fact
Looking
that I'm
at
laid
Jacob.
underneath the duvet and
Underneath the duvet the
And a
entire
tank
time.
top. It's an image hopefully I'll take to the grave.
Yeah, maybe we should start bringing a live webcam for the next one, and therefore people can enjoy it.
I think
No,
so.
definitely not. Definitely not. But yeah, that has been our episode. We really hope you have enjoyed it and that it is bringing you some form of joy through this weird isolation times. But if you haven't yet already, please do check out our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and now Twitter. Check out the record reviews if you want some light listening. If you need some good music to keep you company, our new playlist will be there to keep you company in these interesting and maybe slightly lonely times. And now to play us out is a remix of one of our former featured tracks. Joy by Lion of Judah was a brilliant one that we featured in February, and Matthias Ruiz has done a brilliant Daft Punk style remix of it that has got some absolute vibes to it. We hope you have a great month, and we'll see you in not 4 weeks now, but 2 weeks for the Cathedral Music drive-through inauguration.
Yeah.
We hope you have a great 2 weeks, and we'll see you soon.
bye.
See you later, cool cats and kittens.